everybody and welcome back to my channel. This video is for my hometown MP, Conservative MP Tom Hunt for Ipswich. He recently did an article in the Express newspaper talking about neurodiversity and letting neurodiverse individuals bloom and accessing their talent, and talking about his own neurodiverse experiences of being on the dyspraxia spectrum. So I thought I would talk about it from an autistic woman's perspective, and what I feel, what I agreed with, what I disagreed with, and basically give a snapshot of what he said in this article. I will link the article down below in the video description so you guys can make up your own minds and your own comments on your own decisions. Don't be influenced by me or anything that I have to say. This is just my own opinion, and Tom knows that I'm doing this video. I have permission to do it. I have told him about the thumbnail already, so he is aware I'm using his image on the thumbnail just in case YouTube try to copyright me. So let's get into what he was trying to say. His number one passion is to change the situation about neurodiversity in Ipswich. All neurodiverse young people and adults should be able to reach their full potential. Yes, I totally 100% agree with this, and because we've finally got a neurodiverse MP that finally understands his neurodiverse constituents, I feel that this is going to work in our favour, and rather than having someone who doesn't really have a clue about it or has very limited knowledge on it, I think to have someone living the experience and being neurodiverse will make it more impactful for our society as a whole. Then he goes on to ask the question, so what does neurodiversity even mean? His definition says, it means that your brain is wired in a different way. This whole term encompasses autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia and other connected conditions. Again, I agree with him on this aspect because, again, he used the word spectrum, so it's about being a spectrum of different needs, different conditions, different traits, different levels, different personalities, different people. So I agree with him on that. And then he goes in to say about employment. I agree with him that it is a little sad that less than a third of autistic adults in the UK are in employment, and half of these are prisoners who are neurodiverse. That is shocking. That is absolutely shocking. That the fact that half our prisoners in the prison system and less than a third of autistic adults in the UK are in employment. This shows, again, it's down to lack of funding, lack of training, lack of understanding, lack of suitable employment opportunities to hire neurodiverse or autistic, dyspraxic, dyslexic, ADHD, etc. people. I also agree we need to change the language, because then he goes on to say about the language around neurodiversity. I wholeheartedly agree with this one, because the language is still very biased. It's still very stereotypical. It's made out of fear and stigmas and stereotypes. I think the problem is when you are talking about neurodiversity, we have to be so careful on the way that we interact with people, the things that we say, the words that we say, the tone we say it in, and to make sure that we are legal and above board with everything. We have to use certain words like neurodiverse, neurodivergent, you know, atypical, non-typical, disabled, non-disabled, you know, that kind of stuff. So I totally agree with him on the front of the language, because again, people do say to me, oh Gemma, you know, you don't appear autistic, or you know, you don't act autistic, like, you know, you act more neurotypical than you do autistic. I'm like, do you know how insulting that is? So I totally get around the language thing as well. Also, this is a hard thing to do, because when you are in a stereotypical non-autistic, non-disabled situation, you're faced with people every day trying to get them into work and trying to get them into college or school or apprenticeships or, you know, volunteer work. It can be really hard because you have to hire the right person. The person has to be the right fit for the company, and you have to have the right skill set and the right mindset. And so I agree that can be very hard for employers to do that. So I'm not slamming all employers, but it does need to get a lot more. They need to be putting their language practice into play. And Tom Hunt also goes on to then saying, employers need to harness our talents to help reach out to us to reach our full potential and put us into employment. Well, yes, Tom, but the problem is employers don't want us in employment, because I've applied for so many job applications in the last 8 years that I've been out of work. I've had no success whatsoever. I've applied for jobs I know I can do with my eyes closed. like admin work, office work. I can do motivational speaking that I do now. I can do on the back of my hand. But employers don't want to know. As soon as you declare that you have a medical disability or a disability that's invisible, they don't want to give you a chance. And unfortunately, that's due to employer ignorance, employers not knowing how to hire you, or they're not willing to give you the chance, the time of day to prove that you're able to work in a team or to be committed, or they think you're going to need to be off sick all the time, or that you're not to be trusted. And it's ridiculous, because we are the most 100% loyal, hardworking, dedicated, on time, putting 110% into our job till the job is done, that we will stay there and be your best employees that you've had in probably a few decades. So again, this is down to ignorance and lack of experience. Also, I've been campaigning on this issue for over 10 years nearly, and employers are not changing. A lot of employers at the DWP or government or county council, borough council will say, oh, we're disability appropriate, we're disability friendly, why we hire disabled people. Really? Because from my lack of experience and my experiences applying for jobs for the borough, county, I've never ever been selected for interviews, and I know I can do the jobs that I've applied for with my eyes shut. So you are not disability friendly at all. That's a load of crock, and should never ever be used or said to say, oh, we're disability friendly. No, you're not. Really, you're not. This again can be down to training, and due to not having enough neurodiverse people within the employment field, or coming in to give training and lived experience talks. Because again, if you don't know how to communicate with someone who is neurodiverse or disabled or physically disabled or mentally disabled, you're not going to increase your workforce, which you should be doing by law under the Equality Act, under the Autism Act, under the Mental Health Act. You should be hiring disabled people to make your workforce more diverse and more inclusive, and you're not. So therefore, that is down to lack of funding, training, again. And the next thing he says is about education system. Oh my God, this is a trigger area for me, because the education system does not work at all. The education system is so far broken that I went through all my primary school, all my high school, all my college education without being picked up, considering I was highly anxious. I didn't make friends very well. The friends that I did make stopped communicating with me pretty much after we left. I was very, very bullied, picked on a lot, including being by my own cousin for 2 years of my high school life, which was hell. And teachers don't do anything. They don't discipline people who pick on neurodiverse, disabled individuals, because it's like, oh, it's not our responsibility. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is your responsibility, because you are there to protect neurodiverse individuals, disabled individuals, people who may have emotional, mental, physical, intellectual disability, and you should be there to protect them from getting bullied. And the school environment, unfortunately, again, this falls down to lack of training, lack of responsibility, lack of training on disability, or how to support the autistic, disabled, ADHD people. And then he goes on to say about mental health services. Mental health services are a complete joke. And mental health services in Ipswich especially have got a lot better, I must say, but they are still way below par and should technically not be able to run, because unfortunately we are down to a limited amount of staff, especially within the autism service. We don't have many staff members left anymore, and that frightens me, because we're currently at a 2.5-year waiting list, which again is unacceptable for the most part. And for someone like myself to wait 2.5 years, nearly 3 years to be assessed and diagnosed, that put me through hell. My mental health suffered badly. I was highly anxious all the time. I was emotional all the time. I was tired all the time. I was lack of appetite all the time. I struggled like hell to get accepted for anything. Like, I was up, down, going to the GPs, and I was so frustrated because I wasn't being believed. I wasn't being supported. I wasn't having the right people supporting me, and it is unacceptable. The fact that Ipswich has failed to have any support services in Ipswich since 2012, 2013 is when we first had anything to support me, to get me referred, is disgusting. Why the hell was I left to struggle through education, school, Why was my parents left to suffer? Why was it the fact that they tried so hard to help me and got absolutely nowhere? They were shut down repeatedly. Oh, you know, Gemma's just a bit depressed. Gemma's just a bit anxious. No. Oh, Gemma's just feeling a bit depressed because she's struggling. No. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't suicidal. Now, obviously, I know I was autistic, and that was my autistic traits kicking off because I was under stress. And when I'm under stress, I don't cope very well. So, you know, it was absolutely awful. And the referral rate now to wait 3 years for an autism assessment is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And for anyone else who's waiting for an ADHD assessment, dyslexia, dyspraxia, they're not going to wait 3 years, Tom. Not a chance. They're going to end up either going private or potentially waiting 4, 5, 6 years until we can get more staff to help out with the referrals. And it shouldn't be the case. It really shouldn't be the case at all. Because, again, it comes down to lack of funding for mental health services provisions. Also, the NHS is understaffed. So, again, the NHS can only do so much before they have to kind of push you out the door. And again, that's not good enough. So yeah, that's kind of affecting our futures with regards to employment and training and services, you know, because there's nothing to go to. Once you get diagnosed, it's like, oh, congratulations, you're autistic, Gemma. And it's like, oh, get me through the door and get me out. There was no services to protect me. There was no services to help me. There was nothing for me to jump to and go, oh, now what? I had to do all the research by myself. I had to support myself. I had to look after myself. And it's just ridiculous. It really is unsuitable, Tom. It really, really is. Also, with regards to employment and training, the DWP, oh my God, let's just talk about them, shall we, for a minute? The DWP, Department for Work and Pensions, are useless. Absolute useless. Because they're expecting me to travel 2 hours each way to look for work. Are you having a laugh? I can't travel 2 hours each way to look for work. Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? Like, no, my anxiety, my autism, no. There's no way you're going to get me on a public bus or a public train searching for work for 2 hours each way. No. So you're expecting me to do an 8-hour work day plus 2 hours travel. That's 10 hours. Are you kidding me? I don't think so. It's nearly half a day. No, my brain's not going to cope with that. I'm going to be shut down and in a meltdown by the end of the day. It's just not going to work. It's not practical. It's just very unreasonable. And things like the DWP courses they try to send me on, like, they're not thinking about reasonable adjustments or the way that I'm going to be forced into these courses. Like, making me try to apply for a security guard training course. Are you joking? Look at me. You think this little woman's going to go on a security guard course? Are you kidding me? No, I don't think so. And things like, oh, well, you can work in retail. No. Lights, noise, crowds, smell. No. That's 4 of my main triggers. There's no way that I can work in retail, Tom. I just can't do it. It's absolutely absurd, ridiculous. But I'm so glad we do have you as an MP because you are understanding our struggles, you are understanding who we are and why I campaign for this issue so badly, because there is such a lack of understanding and acceptance in Ipswich with regards to SEND or autism or dyspraxia, dyslexia, ADHD, mental health. It needs to change, and unless people like me speak up and do these videos, nothing is going to change. And unfortunately, I see it getting worse before it gets better. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.